So this is not your first time at the Astra Film Festival. Would you say that your understanding of documentary cinema and your approach to documentary filmmaking have changed since you first attended the festival?
So I was here in 2015 with my first short documentary, Sunday Lunch, and of course I think like making documentary films or like making films, it's like a continuous learning. You are also changing as a human being, so I think your artistic expression is changing too. But since then I also did an international master course in documentary filmmaking, which was a 2-year master, when I have classmates from all over the world. So I think also these relationships and learning from them and working together with such an international group, it's also changed my, I don't know, vision.
And what would you say are the main assets of documentary cinema? Why do you always come back to it and continue studying it and making it, researching it?
I think making documentary film, it's like kind of it's a passion, and I think it really like interprets me, who am I, but mostly I feel that like the most important thing why we are making films, because I think also because I can, through the films, I can really get to know people, get to know life situations that maybe I would never experience in my social circumstances. But I think it's also very important for the audience that through these films you could really widen your perspective in the world. Like you can really see how other people live, what they are struggling with, what are their situations. So I think these films make people more sensitive and open different perspectives, and maybe they can also, because it's an artwork, so you can really get engaged with the film, you can really feel what the characters feel, or you can really feel empathy towards certain situations portrayed in the film. So through art you could really change your attitude, and I think that's why it's very important to make films and also to show it, or to get it out to the audience.
Are there any questions that always come back to you when working on a film? So did you notice that each time you ask yourself the same thing about how you're going to relate to your characters?
Like I think how I work as a method, like I always, for me it's really important to get close to the main character, or to the people who are protagonists in the film, and like really understand their motivation, understand their feelings, and I think for me this process is like building the trust on each other, and that's why in most of my films I usually focus on kind of like everyday happenings, but at the same time I'm trying to capture the dramatic intensity, or like the emotional intensity, what is behind of this everydayness, and I think that's the most important for me to somehow portray emotions.
So you also do that in your current film. You mix daily observation with the confessions of the main character to her mother. So at what point in the process of making the film did that idea of using the voiceover come up?
So yes, actually it was like it was coming in the process as we were like getting to know each other with my main character Kafia, and because first we started the film like the initial concept was to follow her, how she's preparing for the graduation exam, how the integration process is going on, and like learning the languages, and like how she's building her new life. But since we, like, as I got closer to her, I understood that basically the bigger challenge is not like getting the papers or getting the citizenship or going through on the bureaucratic process, because that is something that is kind of reachable, or she could reach it, but her biggest problem was always this inner conflict that she is leaving behind her Muslim culture, she's changing identity, she's like giving herself up for the assimilation, and how can she deal with it, or how can she tell it to her mom, who will never understand this change from this distance, because she left behind in Somalia. So at some point I thought that because that's her biggest emotional and inner dilemma, which is constantly there every day, that maybe we should reflect on it in the film, or we should use the film as a tool for her to be able to kind of confess to the mom, to herself, to justify the decisions, and maybe use the film that if they will meet in the future, maybe she can show it, or she could express what happened with her through the film better than in words, but use the film as a tool, that like an unsent letter, that maybe she will show it to her mom, maybe she won't, but some kind, like use the filmmaking process as a kind of therapy for her. So that was the idea.
Has the film been shown in Hungary, or will it be shown, and what was the reaction if it has been, and what do you expect it to be if it hasn't?
Actually, the Hungarian cinema release just started last week, and so now the film is showing in art cinemas, and we already had like a press screening, so many critics and journalists wrote about it, and I was really happy because I think people could really relate to the film, and like when I was like getting all the reactions, I understood that like kind of the concept and what I wanted to say, it works. And what is really interesting and I think it's a very good reaction in Hungary, that the film, it's not political explicitly, because it's a personal story, but since we are living a political atmosphere and the reality in Hungary, like all our everyday life is very politicized, so people could read the film like kind of in a different way, like because they know all these knowledge, background, and because I really wanted to express with the film that it's one person's story, and you shouldn't be biased watching a documentary about a refugee by your political attitudes. And yeah, I think it works in Hungary very well in this way.